Mic's on.
Hi, welcome here on the boat 2024. We're having a quite like unnormal topic, I would say. Unnormal because we never had something like this before here in our discussion here in the container, and this is something which is a little bit off track our normal business, what we do, but some people who are following us on social media know that a big strength of Boatepolj with their subsidiaries in Mallorca and the south of France as well. We're doing loads of tenders, shadow boats, chase boats, so there's very different names, and it's a market which is quite growing. And I have here with me today Mike, from its managing director from Pantenius in the UK, as the insurance part is a big part in these chase boats, which is always in a kind of discussion because it's such a growing market. And then also, I would say the most important person in the discussion, because it's about your product, which you have been developed, is Dan from the company TowPro, also from the UK. And Dan and us from Boatepolj, we met each other like more or less half a year ago, and so far we have been doing one installation together. This is a boat you also find online on a YouTube channel, which is called the White Shadow. It's a shadow boat for a sunseeker based in Mallorca, but I also have more systems sold already for chase boats coming into delivery in the next season, like the summer 2024. What we as Boatepolj are doing in general when it comes to chase boats, we use that mainly that Axopar 37. In the future, it's going to be also quite many Axopar 45s as a chase boat, which is not the most luxury and most exposing the owner or the crew chase boat. It's like, I call it like a little bit like the Sprinter at sea. If you buy yourself in a company like a Sprinter, you give your crew or not your crew, your company employees like a very nice, good driving car, or transporter, very modern inside, good helm, you feel good, you're having a car or a transporter which is really supporting you doing your job. It could be also done by some much cheaper transporters, but none is in the end working so well. It's fast, and this is a little bit like also the people buying mainly the Axopars. If they wanted a little bit more like nicer and a little bit more luxury, it would be then the Bravos. But in fact, the Axopar 37 has shown all over the world a very good use as a shadow boat. Shadow boat, chase boat. Why? I think this comes from the US originally. There have been always people from Florida towing their shadow boats into the Caribbean the last 30 years, because you need, when you have a big boat, a small boat, to get, go shopping, getting waste garbage on shore. You bring your customers, when it's a charter boat, to a nice beach because you're anchoring more outside. So the history of this all is in the Caribbean, because all the network or all the infrastructure in the Caribbean has historically been not so well, and you are very remote. And nowadays people in Europe also understood that a shadow boat is in fact cheaper, more efficient than having a big tender in the boat, which is then not anyway big enough. It's always a compromise. So they deciding to buy this shadow boat, which is a volume produced boat. It has to run very good. It has to be a people carrier. It still has not to be too luxury, too expensive, because you want to give it to the crew and make them really work with this. And even on an Axopar, for example, they can, even in high peaks, have a tender captain living on board, so they don't use extra limited crew space, which is not there on the mothership. But this new way of taking a chase boat or a shadow boat with the mothership in towing on long distances makes you probably, as somebody responsible in an insurance company, makes you nervous, because very often this is probably not agreed with you. They don't sometimes follow what you want them to do. So tell me what you want them in fact to do when it comes to tow the shadow boat.
Yeah, of course, and I would absolutely endorse that it's come out of the US. One thing you didn't mention is that these chase boats, shadow boats, are really cool too. So I think that's a key thing, that some people like that side of things. But certainly from the US, people wanted to go to the Bahamas, maybe do fishing, all those things. So yeah, I totally endorse that. The issue from insurers is that there was no real regulation. There still isn't, for how people tow these boats. Sometimes it's up to the captain. Some are experienced, some aren't. So having systems, which we're going to talk about shortly, that protect the owner primarily and the crew and provide comfort to an insurer, makes life much easier. Because contrary to what some people think, insurers want clients' lives to be easy. We understand this trend from the US is now very strong in Europe. You're absolutely right that people want more space on the mothership. The crew quarters, we all know, often aren't as big as they might be, so keeping those numbers down is sometimes quite an important consideration. So if we can make the process of towing a purpose-built tender much more straightforward for the customer, then we'll absolutely do that. And I say we'll talk about what that's going to look like very shortly, I'm sure.
So then, what have you then? How did you come up to? Have you been working on a super yacht? How did you come up with an idea, developing a product which fulfills these needs we just been describing?
Yes, I'm not really from the marine industry historically. I was brought into this product was developed by somebody who got the actual product working. He was from a sailing background, and I was brought in 2022. We launched at Mets 21. I was born in 22. I work from primarily a military development background, so bringing sort of redundancy and safety protocols from that area into the super yacht industry, and we've added more features and made it more robust and secure for those customers who want a private communication between their tender and their mothership, as well as the security of knowing what is going on that tender as well, from statuses. So it measures the status of that tender while you're not on it, on and off tow as well, and its location. So you're measuring your bilges, your pumps, your pitch, your roll. All those things are monitored, and this provides peace of mind to the captain and crew, even if they're not on that actual. So if not on that tender when it's being towed behind.
I think this is for people, I think probably everybody in the super yacht industry understands how much input such a captain has, because normally like a private owner would say, he's just the captain, he has a crew, he just needs to drive the thing, so he should be able to watch this tender himself or just with a camera. But having guests on board, having the weather changing, fulfilling a time schedule of expectation of owners and charter customers on board. There's so much. I've been several times with, on a big boat, and you can see there's so much pressure and stress that you need, as probably similar when you military surrounding. There's also like military surrounding, and generally say, military, everything is easy as long it's not, on duty.
That's right.
When then the duty comes, then there's so much input and so much stress in the room that all the systems need to be much more redundant than any other branch out there. And I think this is a similar situation. When the crew has no guests on board and everything is easy, then they would probably even not need it. But it's even not that case most of the time, especially in the high season when they are just changing locations on demands on guests, which are maybe not always logic, but as they are the service people for the owners or the guests, then they just need to do what they are expected to do.
Yeah, and the fact that the way we use the technology we've got, so if using VHF and a combination of VHF and Iridium for the monitoring and the communication between, it means you've always got that robust link for a range of distances. So the captain, it's all about making usually the captain's life easier under stress, as you've said, under pressure. And for example, towing at night, that's a big deal for this system, because it means they can get to more destinations, more remote areas, and travel at night, and then the guests, if it's a charter, can enjoy the day at their destination.
I know from, I've been reading that, so you normal, like in your, conditions of the insurance, you're very clearly stating, if you don't have a system like TowPro, you're anyway not allowed to tow at night.
Yeah, that's right, and that's true of many insurers, that unless there's a proper agreed system and a plan, then the restrictions are very, very harsh. Using the example there of a charter yacht, the key is to make the charter guest life really easy. Now, we've all seen the TV shows that go into the charter market, but you understand that actually packing up from lunch on a beach is quite difficult for the crew, and they've got lots to do, and the charter guests just breeze along as they should. And actually, from an insurance perspective, things like setting the towing up properly is really, really important for the captain of the crew. In that split second, it's making sure the sand being walked through the boat, making sure that the charter guests are happy. So that's why this system, for us is very important, because we know there's a big tick in the box that's done. It's all fixed, as opposed to someone who might just be setting up an old-fashioned a rope between the mothership and the tender, and then they wake up in the morning and guess what? There's a long rope hanging out, and oh, there's my $1 million tender's gone, which I'm afraid has happened, and that's what's prompted the industry to do this.
And this would not only be a danger for, or this is not only the money lost or the insurance case which comes out of it, it's also this tender is now like swimming somewhere around, and it could be an obstacle for another, like could be an obstacle for a container ship being on that route or whatever. So it's like an obstacle floating out of control somewhere in the Mediterranean, and the Mediterranean is not that big, so it will, it could be, causing an accident even.
Yeah, very much so. And
so it's two cases then.
Yeah,
it's
and
one case, the loss of the boat, and the second is in German Haftpflicht. So if you liability to somebody else, because the tender was just swimming around.
Yeah, and I think maybe even more than 1 and 2, reputational damage for a captain. We all know that captains live and die on their claims record, and if they've got to declare, I lost $1 million tender, that's a tricky one. But also for the owner, who probably prides themselves on the ship works meticulously, $1 million claim, for example, is a bitter pill, because any insurer will go, oh, you've had a claim because you've lost a tender. That almost says, oh, what else is wrong? What other systems aren't being looked at properly? So again, as I say, we'll talk about the system, no doubt, but it's a real endorsement for the insurance market that if someone's fitted the system and it's working, then that says something about the mindset of the owner. These are the types of people that we are more likely to want to insure, as opposed to people who go, oh, I don't need that. That's fine.
So if the mothership and the tender or the chase boat has installed the TowPro, so you would then allow to like a certain level of waves and like weather conditions, that the towing at night is accepted then from your side?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the system, because it monitors it at such a high level and on so many key points, it provides that comfort for that to happen. Yeah, so I can't speak for every insurance market out there, but largely the insurance market has endorsed the system, is happy with it, and it also then reflects poorly on people who don't do it, because in the scheme of the cost of running a super yacht, this system is relatively small cost. And it's a no-brainer, we would say, in the UK. Why wouldn't you do this to provide that comfort to yourself and obviously to your insurers?
So you brought us then here like a demo system.
Yes, indeed.
I wanted to do a video before on this Expo 37, but the time ran too fast before Christmas, and I failed to do so. So it's good that you brought this box here, and we're just gonna film a bit what you are doing. I hope this is visible for the viewer.
Yeah, so you have a piece of hardware on the tender. This is just the two screens that the users would see. A piece of hardware on the tender and some hardware on the yacht, and they communicate by their own VHF network. The system on the tender is listening for the AIS of the yacht, and it knows its own GPS position, and by doing that it knows how far it is away from the mothership. This, together with monitoring the tender side, together with monitoring the bilge levels, the pump levels, all through its own interface unit, it gathers up all that information and sends it back to the mothership. So what this means is the install on the mothership of the system is very easy, because it doesn't require any new external antennas. It can be interfaced with the existing systems. And and the main thing with this system is it's a preemptive warning system. So you can set alarms on the yacht side that tell you if anything is about to go wrong. So you can see your bilge is filling up, or you can see your pumps filling up, filling. And this means that you can stop a problem before it becomes a major, well, a disaster in some ways. Together with that, this system also interfaces with your existing chart plotter, so you can still track the system on your big screen as well, which means you can turn off your AIS on the tender while in use, but still track it. So it's sort of like a private network, which some users really like that feature. It will also integrate with your alarm management system on the yacht as well. So some people like to hide this screen in a cupboard, but if an alert goes off, they can go to the screen and find out what's going on. And it can also be used as an anti-theft system as well for the tender, which we're seeing more and more customers are interested in that side of things. So you can set a geofence, and if this tender moves beyond that geofence, it will tell you if that's gone off as well. So and
then do you also have, because we installed that, you also have control, like we put a towing light on that boat.
Yes.
So automatically, if so the crew doesn't have to think about 5 things to do. They just switch it on. The towing light goes on, and we connected it also directly to the battery. I think this is also recommended from your side, so not over the main switch. So the main switch can go off.
That's right.
So the whole boat is not taking any power. So main switch off, towing system on, and then the towing light goes on, and the system is ready to go.
That's right. And if the worst does happen, if all those things, and the tow line, and for some reason the tow line breaks and the tender does go beyond a certain distance, 3 key things happen. First of all, it sends an immediate alert to the bridge. The second thing it does, it turns itself into a Class B AIS, because some flag states and some Coast Guards don't like you towing with your AIS on, because you're emitting 2 AIS signals from technically the same vessel. But obviously if the tow line's broken, you're now 2 vessels. And the third thing it does, it's got an Iridium transceiver built into the tender side, which will start immediately sending Iridium messages. So you've got that triple redundancy basically, and that's a military thing. So from my background, so you're backing up. So you can track this at short distance, a bit further distance, and anywhere in the world.
Okay, very cool. Can you show anything now here on the display?
Yeah. So for example, we've basically made the system so to set a tow. We're ready to tow because we're below a certain distance. So you would activate the tow, and now the tender is towing. The range is a little short for an average tow line. We've got it set at 32 meters at the moment, which is a little short. But for example, if I press this button, this changes our range because I've made the software do that. But and then it will give you an immediate alert on the bridge via VHF. And then that would also alert set the alarm management system off, and it will also alert, send other messages out through the INEMIA backbone that comes out of the system. Obviously, we've got the old bleep off at the moment. So again, and so that's why some people like to have it set to the alarm management system, because everything else going on in that bridge, you wouldn't really hear that. And then but sometimes, for example, you might be towing and it might be just a bit of jitter on the GPS and things. So if it goes back into distance automatically, so for example, it was just out of the geofence you set, the system will reset without getting back on the tender. So you can carry on. But the main thing is, if you do have one of these alerts, you just you do deactivate the tow, you wait till it goes back into towing mode, and then you restart the tow. But we like to have somebody physically doing that, because it just, even if it happened once on a long voyage in 5 days,
want to be sure
it means somebody's gone and checked something, and that's so just checked, and it just gives the crew peace of mind that it's. And actually, I've found that talking to some captains, they actually like the odd false alarm, because it checks everyone knows how it works. Not false alarm, yeah.
What else of the information we are seeing there now?
So
this is the standard view, more or less. This is the home
display. Yeah. So you can set pumps, and this one is set up for pumps, 2 pumps running, and the list angle, yaw angle, and trim angle. You can add other alerts as well. There is another alert menu. So if it's set in there, so that's the settings menu, and then swipe left, and then if you go back, and you keep swiping back, and then you can set alerts on the alert menu, and you just add a new alert. And then these are all the alerts you can set with their thresholds as well. So you can have a different, so for example, I know of several boats that have really bad batteries in them because they haven't got around to it. So they're often tweaking this level so it doesn't come too often, and things
But
like
this
that.
data is taken from where? From the NMEA network, or do you measure it yourself with the system?
There are two options for this. So we can either tap into the NMEA network depending on what system they have. So for example, Imperiobus or something like that. But we also always supply with every kit a standalone, what we call a TowPro interface, which is a digital switch which can be tapped onto analog levels as well, which suits the Axopars actually very well.
Yeah, because it's also then more redundant, I would say.
Absolutely,
because if you go back to an Imperiobus system, then the risk of drained batteries could then cause...
And you're relying on another system as well.
Exactly.
Exactly. So yes, and that's...
So what else is there anything else to show on here? Like, so it's not much they need to learn. I think this is very important. So it's not like a system where you have loads of switches or much to do. So it's in fact towing on, towing off.
So towing on, towing off, as long as the setup, and usually part of the tow plan often is they've done an initial setup of the TowPro, they've set all the applicable levels for that tender, and then really whenever they start to tow, it's tow on, tow off. You've got to set the towing mode on the tender as well. So on the tender actually.
So when my guys decided not even like this display, they put a little bit hide it as well.
Yes.
And then we just have because when I was using, there's just one switch more or less, and two LEDs.
That's correct.
Were giving me an indication if I'm ready to tow, or if I'm then with releasing the switch, I think, I don't remember exactly, but then I'm going into the tow mode. So in fact, it's just on off of wire with an indication of two LEDs.
That is correct, because for example, on the towing mode, obviously, when you're in towing mode, it will activate this geofence of when to alarm if the tow goes out of distance. But if you, for example, want to use it all the time for monitoring the tender while it's in use, you obviously don't want the geofence going off because it might be going to the beach or whatever. So you can press them to monitoring mode, and that disables the geofence, but all the other alerts are still there. So they might be dependent on the VHF range, so a mile or two away, but the captain will still know what his bilge level is and still know what his pumps are doing. And actually we know one captain who actually monitors the yawing angle and puts an alarm on it to make sure his crew aren't absolutely playing around with the tender. So there's all sorts of things you can do. But a lot of people just put it on there. They want it on there to make sure but some captains
want to have
like to play around a bit. Yeah, so there's lots of features.
So how much, because we see this is just a little box, so more or less besides some VHF antennas, this is everything what fits in this box is what needs to go in the helm of the mothership and the tender. So it's not taking much space. It's not a huge black box behind or something. So there's not more needed than which fits in this area.
In fact,
just more antennas.
It's actually a smaller system because in the tender side it comes as a kit, so you can sort of distribute it under the console, sort of box here, box there, box there, sort of thing. And on the mothership, there's very little equipment, just a splitter and this screen and a backbone. So we have manufacturers, particularly Pelly boxes for specific companies who just wanted a portable system, so you can get it in this box for the tender and it just clips on. And that was for another Axopar actually. And
there was the idea that they can use it one system on many tenders?
That was the original idea, so they could switch it between, or if they sold the tender. That was the chief concern.
But we discussed as well that you can have one system on the mothership, which is then having multiple towing systems on each of the chase boats. So you could have 4 chase boats, which all have the tender system installed, which then report to the mothership.
That's correct. So this system does up to 3 at the moment, and you can have 3 individual chase boats or tenders, and that's when the monitoring mode gets interesting because they like to see where they are all on their screen, but nobody else can see them because they're using our VHF channel, not the AIS. But we have got a new product coming out that will do up to 12 systems, but that will also monitor. Well, it's an add-on feature. So, for example, the existing system, any of our current customers can get it upgraded.
Okay, cool. That's
Just
nice.
it's a software upgrade.
Okay,
It's not
so-
much,
okay.
and then we're offering more hardware to go onto jet skis and life jackets.
Okay.
So that's
So it will be then for the whole
The fleet.
the fleet, yeah,
Yeah.
for all the tenders and playing.
That's it.
the
The toys.
the
Yes,
toys.
the
sorry,
toys. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's we hope to launch that very soon.
Cool. Yeah, I think that was a good way to get an overview of the TowPro system. Again, from our side, we will deliver several tenders or chase boats this year with the TowPro. But I also wanted to use this opportunity to explain your product, because when I went to your webpage, I like, this helps, I think, very much, such a video, because there's so much in your brain, I guess, so much technical information, which is then in a video or in a speaking way very much easier to be explained, also from the distance perspective, like from Mike's point of view, or again from your point of view. And again, my point of view is, like, we at Boat, we claim ourselves having, with a big workshop and the very well fitting product Axopar, like, we are a very good way of individualizing standard volume boats into a chase boat product, and then you are a big part of that, as we're doing loads of towing points, for example. We were the only ones who, I think the only ones, I don't know, but I'm quite sure the only ones having a certified towing point, which is specially made out of just two pieces and welded together, not the hook in the front. So it's, the hook in the front cannot go off, because it's like, these two are really made into this form, and this is also calculated, or we have a certificate with this. So we have loads of boarding stuff. Like, if you go on our YouTube channel, there's we did the first 3 or 4 diesel outboard chase boats on the Axopar 37 with the Cox engine. So there's many things we do in our workshop in Germany. It sounds a bit weird in the middle of Germany, which I think can make several captains worldwide very happy. So have a look there, and hopefully every chase boat in the future, I will make that sure that every chase boat in the future has a TowPro system. Also to feel for myself, having supported, like, this towing in the most safe way possible. Anything you want to add, Mike?
No, again, I would endorse your message about fitting this. If you're thinking about towing, it's as important for the client as well as, I think insurance is a side issue, because we'll say yes or we'll say no to, if people don't do it. But I think for that client, you mentioned about a tender just being lost in the wilderness somewhere, I think that's really important. It's just another thing that can make the client's life easier, and I think that's got to be a good thing, and safer, of course. So yeah.
Anything from your side to say?
Yes. Well, we're really encouraged by the support we're getting from Porsche and other people, and we're getting a lot of pickup this year. We're on over 60 yachts now in quite a short order, and we're getting a very good pickup this year. So we're really pleased. I think other people are taking on the message.
Cool.
So that's really good, and we're also continuously developing other features for other people as well. So we're trying to support every customer as an individual. Really, our feedback so far is the customer service. It's all about the customer service as well. So
that fits very much to our genes at Boat, and I think because we are working loads with you guys from Pantenius since, I don't know, decades, I think 30 years, and that fits. I think these are our all 3 core values, and this is then a good working together,
Indeed.
which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.